AEW are the kings of pay-per-views. Whether you're someone who enjoys the weekly TV, someone who hates it, or someone who thinks it's inconsistent at times, one thing is for sure, AEW pay-per-views rarely miss. And with the roster they have now, there's no reason why they can't all be as good as last month's Revolution and now Dynasty. The company has recently established their new slogan, and I couldn't think of a better way to describe this entire show. This was a show for those who love the art of professional wrestling. To think that only just 1 month ago we had what I called one of the greatest wrestling events of all time from the same company. Revolution was special, and by the end of this video, I don't know if I'll be able to decide which show I enjoyed more. But do I really have to choose? The fact that one company has been able to produce 2 shows of this caliber in consecutive months speaks to their strength. Again, I think AEW's undeniable strength is their pay-per-views. The roster is so stacked and so talented that almost any combination of matches with this collection of talent will result in a show of this insane quality. Keep in mind, there was no Omega, no MJF, no Hayter, no Cole, or no Hangman on this show. What an embarrassment of riches to have those wrestlers out and to be able to just put on a show of the year contender and one of the best pay-per-views in company history. And the common theme at the end of the night was professional wrestling. At a time when this company is continuously being bashed left and right, some of it warranted but most of it not, it needed a show like this to remind everyone that they're not going anywhere. In fact, they just put on a show of the year contender on the same month where WWE also put on a critically acclaimed WrestleMania. Even as someone who doesn't watch WWE week to week, I think it's pretty sick that there's at least now a flavor of pro wrestling for everyone on a large platform. And that's what Dynasty was. It was my favorite flavor, my favorite style of pro wrestling. Because this is AEW, where the best wrestle. It's kind of crazy to think that Full Gear 2021 was originally scheduled to take place in this very arena, but due to wanting to avoid competition, AEW chose to move that show to a completely different weekend in a completely different state. But my goodness, did AEW make it up to St. Louis, Missouri with this event. I don't even have to wait to say this because I'm confident in my belief. St. Louis ended up getting the better pay-per-view in Dynasty, and that's saying something because Full Gear 2021 was a phenomenal pay-per-view that still makes a lot of people's top 3 AEW pay-per-view lists. But AEW pay-per-views in 2024 have just been in another stratosphere, even in comparison to their all-time best from the 2019 through 2021 golden era. And a lot of that has to do with the roster that Tony Khan has assembled. And there's no better representation of this than the opening match on the pay-per-view, Pac versus Kazuchika Okada, in AEW OG versus one of the big 3 signings of 2024. Opening your pay-per-view with this is flexing the depth of your roster. I had high expectations for this one and they somehow still surpassed them. Okada as a heel was a stroke of genius, and Pac playing the lovable anti-hero just by simply being Pac made this a great dynamic. Again, shout out to the crowd who made it obvious early on that they were going to make this a special night. This is without a doubt one of the best pay-per-view openers I've ever seen. Okada is going to make the Continental Crown mean something, and Pac simply being back is a gift all on its own. What an insane match to open with, which just backs up the new company slogan. Afterwards, we had a really fun trios match where Adam Copeland, Mark Briscoe, and Eddie Kingston took on the House of Black. The babyface side is beloved and the heels are credible. I think everyone here showed out and kept the momentum of the show going. The backdrop story was one of Copeland and Malachi setting up their eventual 1v1. There was a really sick triple spear spot that was so synchronized it made me feel like I was playing a video game. Credit to Malachi Black, who recently had a few singles matches where I felt he didn't really impress, but he came to this match looking sharp. Him getting the win over Cope after spraying him with the mist was a good way to set up their big eventual face-off. After that, we had a moment that was better than the match itself, but that's not to say the match was bad at all. In fact, I was surprised by the pace we saw when TBS champion Julia Hart took on Willow Nightingale. Julia has put in the work to become one of the more popular women on the roster, but the same can also be said for Willow. If you're in the loop, you kinda had an idea that this would be a short match since Julia Hart has reportedly been battling injuries. Nonetheless, the match still happened, and despite the setbacks, they got the job done. Willow Nightingale deserved this big win, especially after that fantastic babyface promo she cut in the lead up to this show. And this perfectly sets up the big rematch from 1 year ago at Double or Nothing. It might end up being a short reign for Willow, as at next month's pay-per-view she'll be taking on Mercedes Moné in her highly anticipated in-ring debut for the promotion. One of the matches I was most looking forward to was Roderick Strong vs Kyle O'Reilly for the international title, and I'm so glad that they were able to deliver. My biggest concern with this going in was that with such a stacked card, the crowd would be quiet for this one, but I was wrong. They went out and had a technical, hard-hitting, early ROH pilled style match on this pay-per-view, and the St. Louis crowd made it known that they appreciated the art of wrestling. Honestly, this was one of my favorite matches of the night. But that's the thing, I can say that about most matches on this show. Although Roddy did end up retaining, I hope they keep this feud going because I can watch these guys wrestle forever. Also, Adam Cole can walk now, so I hope that means he'll be back soon despite reports that he suffered a setback recently. I'm finally invested in something that the Undisputed Kingdom is doing, and that's an achievement on its own. Next, we had what I would call the singular low point of the show, Chris Jericho vs Hook. We all knew ahead of time that this would be the restroom break. Sorry, Hook. Highlights of this one included the crowd chanting "Fozzy sucks, please retire and go home" at Jericho. Please don't try to convince me that that's heel heat, that's go away heat. But it doesn't even matter, Tony Khan refuses to listen when it comes to Jericho, and now he's FTW champion. Jericho is the single thing I consistently have a problem with on AEW TV in 2024. It's a shame because this pay-per-view would have been flawless without this match. But hey, at least I was able to use the restroom during this. Alright, back to the show. To show you just how otherworldly this pay-per-view was, even timeless Toni Storm remembered who she was and had a great match against former world champion Thunder Rosa. This is easily the best pay-per-view match of the timeless Toni era, and I'm glad she seemingly was able to figure out how to be in character yet still have a great match. Huge credit to Thunder Rosa for coming to fight too. I think this match gave a lot of hope to fans of both Toni and Thunder going forward. Compared to Revolution last month, Toni kept the momentum of the show going instead of bringing it down, and she retained, which further confirms my theory that the only people who are in contention to beat Toni are Mariah May or Jamie Hayter. Will Ospreay vs Bryan Danielson. Oh my god. I can't even put into words. How can any other dream match ever be labeled a dream match after this? One of the greatest matches of all time. It's in my top 2 right now alongside Omega vs Okada 4. Yes, instantly in my top 2 greatest matches ever. This is professional wrestling. This is AEW. And the crowd made it known with thunderous AEW, this is wrestling, fight forever, and we're not worthy chants. I seriously feel bad for anyone who doesn't like AEW, because this is one of the greatest matches of all time and will be talked about for years to come. The pacing, the counters, the urgency, the goats. That anime style standoff where both guys were charging up in the corner as they prepare to hit their finishers was legitimately one of the most creative, captivating, incredible things I've ever seen in wrestling. This is professional wrestling at the highest level. This is the standard that AEW has set. And the story they told in the end with the Tiger Driver being a career-ending move got me. It's been confirmed that this Bryan injury spot was pre-planned. And that's how good these guys are at their job. They made me believe. Will Ospreay will be the face of AEW very soon. Danielson will be going part-time very soon. The time was now. AEW has justified its existence with this match alone. And once again, a Will Ospreay pay-per-view match has sent a message to the locker room. If you're not capable of hanging at this level, then maybe AEW isn't for you. Match of the year. Now, the next match could have easily flopped due to what they were following, but the men involved worked really hard and somehow had the crowd on their feet and going crazy, keeping up the momentum of the show. The Young Bucks and FTR had a very good ladder match which saw them put their bodies through punishment for our entertainment. This match is for sure top 2 in the FTR Bucks tetralogy. I really enjoyed this and appreciated all 4 men accomplishing the gargantuan task of keeping this crowd hot. And of course, that ending. The scapegoat Jack Perry, disguised under a Sting mask, cost FTR the match and helped the Bucks become 3-time tag team champions in AEW. I thought this return was executed perfectly. That smile when the mask came off was brilliant. Out of all the pillars, Perry was always the least interesting to me personally. Now he's moved up the ranks. He's still not on the level of the top 2 for me, but he's at least figured the part out where he needed the most work. And because of that, I look forward to seeing what the scapegoat does with the new Elite. And then there was the main event that featured Swerve Strickland taking on Samoa Joe for the AEW World title. This was Swerve's night, and it was made clear with his Killmonger-inspired entrance. The Jimmy Rave robe was also a very nice touch. The AEW audience has been waiting for this moment for months now, and it couldn't happen at a more appropriately titled event. Shout out to Samoa Joe, who took the reins from MJF and made the world title feel like a legitimate top prize. I think calling Joe's reign transitional is inaccurate. He was champion for 4 months, over 100 days. We need to normalize reigns of this length. Samoa Joe even getting a world title run at this stage of his career for a major company is something that I'm thankful for. He did everything he could with the belt, and his hard work over the past couple of years was rewarded. And even in defeat, he made Swerve look like $1,000,000. The two men worked hard to make sure this pay-per-view ended the only way it could. The crowd was invested, and therefore when the moment happened, when Swerve finally defeated Samoa Joe to become world champion, the place came unglued. Swerve Strickland is world champion. He reached his goal of becoming the first African-American world champion in AEW history, but he's also a testament to hard work paying off. Never once did he complain when he was taking losses. When WWE came calling, he had no interest of going back. He bet on himself in AEW and was rewarded for it. He got over and was vindicated. Shout out to the best manager in all of wrestling right now too, Prince Nana, who contributed greatly to the rise of Swerve Strickland. This is a beautiful success story that encapsulates everything that AEW stands for. AEW instantly saw a star in Swerve, whereas WWE saw nothing in him. This is why we need an alternative. And now Swerve finds himself leading the team, this dynasty that will continue to put on pay-per-views of this caliber. A roster for the ages like this one will have me questioning if each successive pay-per-view was better than the last. This isn't normal, but AEW has made it normal. Sure, sometimes I complain about what AEW does like I did last year, but that's because I know they're capable of this. 2024 has been a return to form, and I'm left thinking how they'll top this with Double or Nothing. I thought it was impossible for them to top Revolution, but they arguably did it just 1 month later. If I've learned anything about AEW in 2024, it's that nothing is impossible with a dynasty.